Probably you've been through primary school, high school, or maybe tertiary. But even primary school and high school are enough for you to you've heard or asked this question. I've been in places where I've heard this question being asked a lot of times, and at some point asked it myself. What does mathematics really teach us? Why do we do mathematics? So today, fasten your seatbelts as you're going to answer that question. And today, I'm going to talk to you about integration and integrity. So, let me start with a simple question. What if who you are could be calculated? Not reduced to numbers, no, but understood the same way mathematics understands a system. Because mathematics doesn't just deal with numbers, but it deals with truth, consistency, and wholeness. And one of the most powerful ideas in mathematics is this: integration. In calculus, integration is defined as the process of taking small, almost invisible pieces and bringing them together to form a whole. So these are tiny fragments that are accumulated over time until something meaningful appears. Now pause. Because life works exactly the same way. We often think of identity as something that is fixed. I am this kind of person. I have integrity. I stand for this. But mathematics would challenge that. It would say, no, you're not a single statement, but you are an accumulation. An accumulation of every decision you make, every word you speak, every silent compromise, every moment when no one is watching. Those are your small pieces. And over time, they integrate. So, ask yourself this: who am I? Who are you? Not who you claim to be, not who you post online, not even who you believe yourself to be, but the sum total of your repeated choices. That is your integral. Now, let's talk about integrity. I know we use that word a lot. He has integrity. She is a person of integrity. But what does it really mean to say he has integrity? Integrity is not perfection. It is not never failing. But integrity is wholeness. It is when your thoughts, your words, and your actions agree. It is when there is no internal contradiction, internal conflict. It is when who you are in private is not different from who you are in public. In other words, integrity is integration of the self. But here's where it gets a little bit deeper. In mathematics, for a function to be smoothly integrated, it must be continuous. No sudden jumps, no hidden breaks. Because once a function is broken, the result becomes unstable, uncertain, sometimes even undefined. And that is life too. When you are one person in one room and another person in a different room, when your values shift depending on convenience, when your truth burns depending on pressure, when it changes depending on who's listening, you become discontinuous. In fact, fragmented. And a fragmented life can never produce a stable identity. Now, listen carefully, because this is the part we often avoid. You cannot fake integrity over time. You might perform it for a moment. You might imitate it in certain situations. But life keeps integrating. Every action adds. Every word adds. Every decision counts. Every thought. And eventually, the truth accumulates. Not loudly, not instantly, but inevitably. Because the integral never lies. So, back to our question. What does mathematics teach us about this life? Well, it teaches us that who you are is not built in a day. It is built in moments, small ones, quiet ones, repeated ones. It teaches us that integrity is not something that you declare, but rather something you become. Gradually, consistently, deliberately. And maybe most importantly, it teaches us that if you don't like the result you're getting today, you don't have to fix the whole at once. You go back to the smallest pieces, your choices. So today, don't try to become a completely different person overnight, but instead ask yourself this: what am I adding right now, in this present moment? Because whatever you add today will still be there tomorrow. Whatever you ate tomorrow will still be there the day after tomorrow, the week after, the month after, a year, and it will become you. So live in such a way that when your life is integrated, when all your days are summed together, the result is not confusion, not contradiction, no, but clarity, wholeness, truth, integrity. Because at the end of it all, a life of integrity is simply a life that adds up. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Tino Tenda Chikuku.